And so as we began working through this language, or these documents, we began to encounter language in probably among its deepest senses. And I think that a lot of times when we teach, we are using words that we all know, whose meanings and implications we all kind of, they're implicit as well as explicit. And we're all comfortable with this. But when you're teaching another language, ESL, at this particular level, where meanings are not just explicit, but they're huge and they're implicit, then it's a whole different kind of situation, because each sentence is both that promise and at the same time a mystery. What could that possibly mean? One of the things that I think happens when you're working in a refugee situation, one of the things that happened for me, and this was the first of several that I had, is that we're talking to people who understand at a visceral level words that most of us casually use. You know, I say casually, we use them with emphasis, but we say things like, it was devastating. Well, you know, okay. Our students in this situation understand devastation at a level we haven't experienced, most likely. I had to keep going back and kind of checking with her father about their experiences, because as a student, learning and experiencing the language, she really seemed quite bewildered by some of the ideas that we were talking about. There are these rights that people have that are inalienable, and the Constitution of the United States, which she had to have a general sense of, enumerates those rights. You know, it says what they are. But the 14th Amendment of the Bill of Rights says, oh, there's all these other rights that aren't enumerated, but they're there. Just trying to explain how that would be. Just trying to say out loud, in some nations and in some political situations, there's an effort to push out and expand what people can be. And this effort to push these things out, to expand the possibilities for human beings, can only be communicated through language in this setting. So we're always talking about making words bigger, making ideas bigger, making experiences that have a very rich resonance. To this point, flipping it around and talking about what the teacher experiences. I was thinking about this the other day. You know, it's very interesting to be teaching in a classroom. And everybody knows what a classroom is. And we have plain and clear expectations, rows of tables, rows of chairs, you know, place in front or a circle or something. You know. Teaching in someone's home is an altogether different experience. Teaching in someone's kitchen is a remarkable experience. And one of the things I experienced there was week after week, you'd go into the kitchen around the same time every day. The seasons are changing. We've moved from summer into autumn. The light is different. And after a while, you begin to realize you've been looking at the same kitchen counter for weeks and weeks. And it changes each time you see it. There's a different arrangement of things on there. And after a while, you begin to notice what those things are. And I remember, because I used to volunteer in hospice, I remember suddenly one day in the middle of some remark I was trying to make, there was a drug that I recognized on the kitchen counter. Someone in that household was being treated for cancer. And it occurred to me that it occurred to me what a challenge life can be in these situations, because we always think of displacement as being a key to understanding the refugee situation. But that's not the only experience that people are having. They're living their lives. They're experiencing their bodies. And they're trying to find in their world things that will make it all right, because nothing is right. And nothing is familiar. Everything is just a shock to the system. Layered on top of that is the experience of one, inside one's own body. So suddenly, as I'm there teaching, what happened for me was a change in tone. I stopped teaching language and started teaching expression. I think I stopped thinking about meanings and started thinking about empathies. And I started thinking about the flimsiness of language in the face of life. I think that we're all subject to certain arrogances. And, when you walk in as the teacher, you're there to share your knowledge and your experience and all this and that. What happens is that when the frailty of language becomes apparent, if you're lucky, and I felt like I was very lucky, you suddenly experience a certain kind of humility. But even more than that, you start to experience this intense desire to share. The humility is a door that opens and invites you to share your experience, and to let the other person, your students, share their experience. This was for me a kind of avalanche, because I stopped talking and started listening more. And language in the entire session became much richer. And there were, this is to say too, that we're working to overcome limitations. I don't know necessarily what she means. She doesn't know necessarily how to say what she means. And we have to move toward each other in these incremental ways. And the strategies that we use in ESL, in an ESL classroom, seem to me to be more and more appropriate to an ESL classroom and less appropriate to a kitchen. Now, I know that there are teachers much more inventive than I am in this, but that was my experience.